We have quite a number of questions which have been sent to the whole group and privately to me. And we also have some which were sent via the application form. So probably we'll prioritize those which have been sent today. I will read 2 questions at a time, then we'll get the thoughts of the speakers. Isaac says that, I think Isaac, will the presentation slides be sent? I'll speak to the speakers if they are willing to share their slides. Probably they can also respond to that as well. Nana says that how do you overcome who you know when applying for local scholarships? I think who you know is a term in Ghana. Then Ikea says any guiding principles on applying for professional fellowship programs. I think if Ikea's questions can be answered together with Alpitio's question. Alpitio says that professional masters or PhD in nursing. So to recap, 2 questions to our speakers: are there professional sites for professional scholarships in areas like nursing, medicine, etc.? And any practical thoughts on how to apply for fellowship programs?
Okay, maybe I say a few words and maybe Dr. Banda comes in. Thanks for the questions. I can't remember all the names, but at least I remember Isaac. I think the videos will probably be uploaded on YouTube, Achievers Tribe YouTube channel. So you can go and replay the videos and really see the slides again, just in case you don't get the slides. Good. How do you overcome who do you know? This is really a tough question. But I think that if you really listen to what Dr. Banda said, your application path should speak volumes for you. Yes, I know in Ghana, some of these things really happen, right? Sometimes it's difficult to get evidence of these things happening. I've known certain institutions which were touted as having these practices happening. And in these institutions, I know students who really didn't know anybody, but had a really good application and it went through. So I think indeed, really, once you're able to put in a really good application, you should stand a chance. As to how to overcome who you know or whom you don't know, it's quite tough thing for me to comment on that. And I think there's one question about whether there are professional sites or websites where they can get professional scholarships. I mean, really, every professional course, the courses that are offered in the universities, they also have professional programs. And so you really need to delve deeper and see what is out there. I think in my talk, I also mentioned that there are maybe some professional associations, for example, Chartered Institutes of how do you call it, accountants, and maybe engineering societies and stuff like that. And these may have certain links to some of these programs. So you may want to explore these avenues and fish out some of the opportunities therein.
Yeah, thanks. Dr. Banda, any additional thoughts, please?
Yeah, I think I'll just address what Fred has already talked about. I mean, in Ghana and elsewhere, it's difficult for you to do away with who you know, right? And more so these days when, because of the economic difficulties, companies and organizations are finding it difficult to offer these scholarships. I know people who know, like, who have uncles and brothers being ministers and members of parliament. They still cannot secure scholarship from Get Fund and other places. So it's tough. this is not a good time for us prospective students. But as Fred said, you just have to do away with what you have, right? If you don't know anybody and you still want to apply, make sure that whatever application you're putting in is very strong, so that at least it will be compelling enough for them to consider you. But what I would advise people is that if truly you are not thinking of studying in Ghana, if you're thinking of studying in Ghana, getting a Get Fund scholarship is now relatively easier. It's easier if you want to attend a local institution, but a foreign institution these days, because of the exchange rate, they'll give you all sort of reasons or excuses. For professional masters and PhDs, what I always advise my mentees is that you have to do the research. Okay, Google Map. Google Map. Google is an incredible tool that you can literally search. The most important thing is for you to have or to know the website to go to, or the links to go to. So if you have legit platforms that provide information about programs, then that is the best place to go. So for example, if someone reached out to me that, oh, I'm a nurse, I'm interested in doing masters in nursing, or I'm interested in doing masters of public health, where do I begin? I'll tell you that go and search for organizations or institutions that usually rank schools. So I will give you like 3 or 4 websites that you can go, and then they will tell you, they will name like every school and the program they offer, right? So you can filter by program. So you can put in, maybe I want to do Master of Public Health, and then it will give you the top 50 schools of public health in the US or globally or in Europe. And then based on this list that it has given you, you have to take the time and the pain and go through each school website to know what they are looking for. So you can go to maybe a school in Europe and look at their requirements. If you fulfill those requirements, then you can put up an application. Sometimes it's important for you to reach out to the admissions committee so that they would be able to offer advice on how to go about it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So we go to Alidu wants to get Mr. Bright's contact. So Alidu, if you can send us a private message, the Achievers Tribe contact, we can make the arrangement. But after the meeting, we are going to provide the social media handles for the 2 speakers so that you can follow them and probably contact them as well. TY says that there are some programs offered online. Is it good to apply for scholarship for online programs? What are the job prospects like after completion? Then maybe I add this to it. I think this one goes directly to Dr. Bandai, although it wasn't pre-specified. The question is, how do you magnify your achievement in your statement of purpose without lying? So if you can please take these 2 questions.
Okay, so I'll take the first one first, right? The second one first. How do you magnify your achievements without it coming across as you lying? So there are 2 different ways of looking at this, right? One is that it is absolutely important for you not to lie. So, for example, you could use or you could say that you were the best student in your class for maybe primary school. Okay. If you are indeed not, you were not the best student at that time, then you've lied. Okay, so lying is different from say magnifying your achievement. And one thing that I've realized about African students is that we tend to downplay our achievements, right? Even on our CV, we tend to really downplay our achievement because we've been taught to be humble, we've been taught not to show off our achievements, but the whites know how to highlight these things. Okay, so you are a leader of an organization in your community. You can use words that will strengthen the impact of that role without necessarily lying. Okay, you were in that position, but you can use specific words to show that this is what I was doing as a leader. So maybe I was leading teams, which resulted in a high impact objective for a community outcome. Something like that. It's all about how you are framing it. So framing it differently or paraphrasing it differently is entirely different from lying. Lying is not something you want to do, whether in terms of your academic achievement or your professional achievement. You can't say you worked for an organization when you haven't worked for the organization. But if you work for an organization, your duties and your roles can be paraphrased in a form that is really impactful. Okay, so that is that. In terms of online programs, I've had people get do their masters online from Ghana, and they were still competitive in the job market. The only catch is that online programs typically will not give you like a good scholarship package, because the idea is that if you're doing an online program, or online programs are usually reserved for people who are extremely busy or doing other things. So programs understand that people can still be at the workplace or employed and still enroll in an online program. So if you are employed, there is no justification for the school to give you any funding, because they assume that the money that you are getting from your employer will be able to pay for the fees. So what I've realized is that most online programs hardly give students any substantial scholarship. But if you apply for a full-time or on-site program, they know that whatever you are doing, you are leaving all behind and coming to school. So in that case, you can make a compelling case for scholarship. So in general, on-site programs offer more substantial scholarship opportunities than online programs. And two, in terms of impact, online and on-site all might give you the same impact, especially if the online program is also well recognized. The key here is well-recognized institution offering an online program. If it's accredited, that is good. The only disadvantage is that if you're an online student, ability to network with students and faculty is a bit limited.
Thank you. Mr. Bright, please, any additional thoughts?
Oh, I think I would have added to the very last statement he made, that the course needs to be recognized, accredited, and also the fact that the kind of connections you get to build even on site is also really, really important. But of course, he made mention of the fact that these online courses can equally get you to where you want to go, right? So if you find yourself in a position to go for the online program, yeah, I think you can take it, and it's actually good.
Yes, thank you. So Damba says that you have a diploma. I guess he meant an undergraduate diploma. But you have a diploma. Any ideas on how to apply and win scholarships? Next question is, would you recommend leaving Ghana to say the US so that you can increase your chances of having a successful educational scholarship application? Then Agbeshi question is, how can I differentiate a legit scholarship from a fake one?
Okay, maybe I tackle the fraudulent ones. I think if you follow carefully in my presentation, I gave certain tips where you'd be able to determine that this scholarship advert is fake or not, right? Essentially, you must understand that in these scholarship applications, you are basically giving away information. Some of this information could be really personal, really sensitive. So if some of these websites are demanding for really personal information, sensitive information, then you need to be a bit cautious. Because in the application pack, as Dr. Banda really has delved into, you realize that really there's not a high demand placed on you releasing your personal and sensitive information. Maybe these information could be required during the latter stages of the application process. Probably you've been selected and the admissions committee needs certain information to finalize your scholarship. And in which case, these sensitive information would be required. So you need to watch out for these things. Again, you also need to watch out for people, scammers who demand for some form of payment before you are given the scholarship. Now, there are two things. I know there are certain organizations or institutions or companies who really put programs together like these or help students to apply for scholarships. These organizations may charge you a certain fee for their services, right? Don't make them bad. That is the business they are doing. So you need to be able to differentiate that. But in the case where you want to apply for a certain program or a scholarship, and the response you get is you have to maybe deposit a certain amount of money into a certain bank account, and it is only that your progression to the next phase is guaranteed, it should immediately raise a question mark. So you need to be able to watch out for these things and a few other things which I mentioned. And of course, the most important thing is getting into the right website, which is very, very important. So you need to check. So when you are clicking on the links, right, please be mindful of the website addresses that pop up. So on your browser, you should be able to just put your mouse or your cursor into the address and really check the address, the website address of the institution you are dealing with. And of course, a simple Google search can tell you that this is a recognized institution or not. And then I think there was a question about, is it good that you leave Ghana to be able to increase your chances of getting a scholarship? I mean, ideally, if you have the opportunity to already travel abroad, then it's a good sign, because in scholarship applications, sometimes there are certain physical, or let me say certain limitations, if I should put it that way. And like I said, depending on your status, some of you could be a dual national, right? So for example, maybe your dad is American, your mom is Ghanaian, so you could be half Ghanaian, half American. And so if you have such an opportunity and you travel to the States, you can, because there could be some scholarships that are limited to students maybe just coming from the US, which means that it expands your reach, right? That you are a Ghanaian, you can apply, you're a US citizen, you can apply, etc. So you need to be able to understand the dynamics of these arrangements. If it is just traveling, say, for a visit, a Schengen state, maybe for a visit, and you think that improves your chances, already you are fully a Ghanaian, right? And you only went there for a visit. So it does not exclude you out of the brackets. So you need to know if you can live in that particular country, or you have the necessary documentation to stay there. Then of course that could enhance the prospects or the type of scholarships that you can apply to. Yeah. And did I miss? I think there was another question. Maybe I missed it. Oh, Dr. Charles.
Yeah, Fred, I think you've touched on, yes, I think you've touched on all three.
Okay.
Dr. Bang, please, any additional ideas or thoughts?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, Fred has highlighted the most important part. For I haven't really encountered, someone who has been duped in terms of scholarship application. The only thing is that you need to keep your eye out. No institution will request for you to pay any amount of money before they will give you scholarship. You have to really know the website you're dealing with. You have to ensure that it is a legit website. So you're applying through the school is the safest way, okay? If you're applying through a third party, you see that the person is helping you put together your application package, and then you yourself, you verify the website or the school's link that you're applying to. That is the best form of, or that's the best way of preventing these spammy website. And sometimes you can even send an email. You just, if for example the scholarship is with maybe the School of Health Sciences in maybe University of Texas, what you can do is go strictly to Texas, website, look out for the admissions committee, send them an email, and inquire about that particular scholarship if it's truly from them, right? That is the only way you can avoid these comments. And I think that there was another question about diploma and the opportunity to get scholarships or courses. I think at the bottom of it, it really has to do with what the school is requiring. Okay, if the school is requiring a bachelor's degree as a minimum, then there's usually little you can do about it. But there are programs that also specify that if you have a diploma, you are eligible to apply. Okay, so it's all about doing your due diligence, doing your research. I know people who had diplomas and went on to get, very good programs outside. So you have to do the research to know which specific programs require what. Okay, and it will also be important for you to reach out to people who are taking similar trajectory. So if you know someone who did diploma and has been able to get a program outside, then you should link out to the person. That is the reason why I usually stress to my mentees that get on LinkedIn and other platforms that usually share that you have the opportunity to meet a lot of people in the academic setting. You'll be surprised the kind of information or the resources you will likely get in those areas.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much. I think we are running out of time. Maybe let's see. Bridget has a request. Can you share with us a drafted statement of purpose? So I think the speaker or the speakers will need to take a decision on this. No, my GPA is great. How my GPA is not great. Sorry, my GPA is not great. Can I win a scholarship of QR? Then I think how do I compete with students with higher GPAs for educational scholarships? And how do I make my application stand out even with a lower GPA? I think Dr. Banda touched on the second bit, but probably because of network, if you can reiterate. So experts, can you touch on these two questions?
I think this is the field of Dr. Banda, so I'll let him handle that.
Well, so if you say your GPA is not great, it's I don't know what you mean by it's not great, right? I've seen if you watch, I have a couple of videos that I interviewed the chair of the MPH program at Johns Hopkins University, and I actually asked her whether GPA matters in their selection process. And what she said was that they don't look at the absolute number of your GPA. So they don't look at whether it's 3.9 or it's 3.5 or it's below 3. What they look at is, for example, if you have a GPA that is low, let's say you have a GPA between 2.5 and 3, then they are forced to go and look at your other application materials critically to make sure that you have strength in other areas that would, buffer your GPA. All right, so you can't have a GPA that is low and then also submit a very weak statement of purpose and also submit a very weak recommendation letter. In that case, you're kicking yourself out of the game. But if you have an average, if you have an average GPA and you're able to put together a very strong package in terms of your statement, your letters of recommendation, your CV, also demonstrating extensive experience in your field and extracurricular activities and all that, then you have a shot at getting admission and a scholarship. Another key aspect that she mentioned was that if your GPA is low, they want to look at how you have progressed beyond that. So for example, if let's say first year of your undergraduate school, your GPA is 2.5, they want to see at least a steady progress. That maybe second year, your cumulative GPA was 2.6. And then third year, your cumulative GPA was maybe 2.8. Okay, that shows that you are progressing. Or even if your undergraduate, your overall undergraduate project GPA is 2.7, and then you did another course or you did another master's program, and your GPA is like 2.8 or 3, that shows that you are improving. But they don't want to see you starting with a GPA of 3 and then going all the way to GPA of maybe 2.5. Okay, that is a red flag. So yeah, in absolute terms, your GPA is not the only thing that schools look for. They look for other things. I know people who had GPAs of 2.7, 2.8, and even 3, and they got into very competitive programs, all because they had other aspects of the application that spoke about their ability to go through graduate school. I hope I've answered that question.
Excellent. They are excellent responses, Doc. Thank you.
Dr. Charles.
Because of time, yes.
Okay, can I quickly add a comment?
Yes.
So
yes, please go ahead.
I want to say that I want to encourage students to be really genuine in their applications. This is very, very crucial. Dr. Banda talked about not lying in your essays and etc. One other area is that I think that some students are fond of copying essays from the internet and maneuvering things to work for them. But really, these things come back at you. So you need to be careful. Some people just go on the internet, see sample motivational statements, sample statements of purposes, and then they come and tweak a few words and make it their own. I think you need to be very cautious about this, because these panel that go through these statement or application processes, they are really experts and they can easily make it out. In recent times, you've heard of Chat GPT, right, which can really give you almost incredible essays and things like that. So please be careful and be cautious. Make sure that your words are genuine. Do not plagiarize. If perchance, let's say someone had a scholarship and went abroad, and you are trying to apply for the same scholarship, and maybe this person is your friend, right? So the person gives you all the material that he used as his application pack. Some people might be reckless to duplicate similarly what this person has done, and I think this is not right. This person is giving you these materials because he thinks maybe you can read and see the structure of his composition and how he put things together to be able to stand a chance. And doing that is at your own peril. So let's be cautious about some of these things.
Yeah, great. Mr. Bright, okay, thank you very much. So we have 6 more questions. Let me organize them into 3 sets. So set 1, is it a great idea to apply for scholarship for education in countries outside the US and Europe? The person actually mentioned a country. I don't want to do that. Can I accept this, or should I wait until I get a US, UK, European scholarship? The next one is it good to accept a scholarship with strings attached? For example, after you finish the education in the country, you are required to come back to your own country to help. I have aspirations of staying and working in the US. I don't want to come back. And the next one is EA says that any ideas on how to get good letters of recommendations if I do not know people in high profile offices. Then Dimbe asks similar question. Is it only a professor who can give you a letter of recommendation? Can your other lecturers do the same? Over to you, experts.
Okay, maybe I start and then Dr. Banda fits in. I think with the first question, is it good to apply for scholarships outside the US or Europe? For me, it's most often a question of what do you really want? What do you really want is I mean, the most deciding thing, right? The prospects with the course, for which reason you're applying for that scholarship. What are the details? I mean, there's similar courses are offered in different parts of the world, right? Same course that you're looking for could be offered in the UK, could be offered in the United States, could be offered in Australia. But of course, maybe the scholarship packages might differ depending on these countries. So really, it's about your interest and where you want to be. I've encountered some students who are really open to go anywhere. They can go to China, they can go to Russia, Ukraine, anywhere. They just want a scholarship to study. That's fine. That's them. That's what they want. If they're able to apply and get it, that is perfect for them. And then I think there's this question about scholarships with strings attached. I mean, ideally, if it depends on you as an individual, right? Let me give a really personal example. Like when I had a scholarship for the TALO scholarship that I had, the main idea of the TALO scholarship is for you to go gain knowledge and return to your country. So if you, I mean, I know maybe perhaps there are some people who didn't return. I don't know what happened to them or what happened to them. But I was true to myself that I will return. And that doesn't mean that you go out, you return, and your life comes back to zero. Then already your mentality, you need to question your mentality, right? That you go there, gain something relevant, and when you're back home, that could even give you an edge. So you need to know if, I mean, really, you don't want to come back, then it means that obviously you don't want that type of scholarship. So you need to look out for other scholarships. And then I think there was something on ideas for, is it only a professor to give you a good recommendation letter, right? I think Dr. Badner can touch on this, but one quick comment is that for me, the best recommendation letters you can get is from someone you know or someone who knows you. Because usually these admission committees are able to tell the extent of relationship when they read some of these recommendations. Someone could have half a page of a recommendation letter. Someone could end up with two pages of recommendation letter, and in these 2 pages there could be details of the kind of relationship and the potential that you, the students, had, and these professor or lecturer could see. So ideally, your recommendation letter should really come from someone who knows you and can vouch for your potential and in you as a student, and know that when you are given the opportunity, you are able to excel. Yeah.
Dr. Bala, please, any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up chapter. Can you see what I'm showing? I'm trying to pull up a chapter from.
Yeah, very
okay.
Yes, we can see.
Yeah. So okay. So I have there's a chapter in my book that it talks about recommendation letter. As Fred has suggested, the most important, impactful recommendation letters are from those you know. Okay. So how to select the right recommenders? Consider only recommenders who know you very well, because the issue is that you don't want to select someone who will give you a lackluster recommendation. The person is not really vouching out for you. You just putting some words together so that you will not be disappointed, right? Those are the people you need to avoid. It doesn't have to be professors alone. It can be a supervisor. It can even be a teaching assistant who supervise you whilst you are in class or during your research, during your lab rotation or something. It doesn't have to be a professor, okay? But the person should know you very well, and avoid using people in your inner circle. Avoid relatives and friends writing you recommendation letter, right? And then you also have to consider somebody who has known you enough. And it's essential that in your recommendation letter, the person should at least state how long they've known you, because that also goes to show the veracity of what you're talking about. Okay. And consider those who are usually enthusiastic to write you a recommendation letter. If you ask somebody to write a recommendation letter and the first response is no, don't force the person. Okay. If you force the person is just going to write anything, at all for you that is not really moving. Okay. So only get people who are willing to write you a strong recommendation. And the other trick is that if you're requesting for a recommendation, consider those who may have identical or related fields of study to where you're applying. So for example, if I'm applying to a PhD in microbiology, I would want to make sure that at least one or two people that are writing a recommendation for me has a background in microbiology, or they also have a similar degree in microbiology. Okay, that eventually is one of the most critical aspects, because you can apply to Master of Public Health and then your recommender is a bank manager, right? That isn't how it works. So get somebody, whether it's a professor or it's a lecturer or it's a supervisor who has a similar background as you. That is eventually one of the key aspects. So that is how you'd have to do it. And requesting for recommendation letters always comes with you adding your CV to the email you are sending, or if you're going to meet a lecturer or professor, always go with your email, your SOP, your statement of purpose, your transcripts, and sometimes you even have to add the list of schools you're applying to, right? For the professor to even suggest to you that this is what you have to do. So this is about recommendation, asking for recommendation letters. When it comes to scholarships that have strings attached, as Fred mentioned, that is your personal preference, okay? But sometimes you have no option, okay? So for example, Fulbright and then the World Bank Japan Scholarship are two of the well-known scholarships, that international scholarships with strings attached. Okay, if you have a scholarship from Ghana, it's relatively easier to not adhere to the string. If, for example, Get Fund says, so apparently Get Fund scholarship always comes with a string attached that you should come back home and at least help for a year or two. But 99% of people don't do that. Okay, and they don't really enforce it. So it's easier to get away with it. But for scholarships that are internationally recognized, like the Fulbright, which is given through the US Embassy, the World Bank Japan Scholarship, that one, you can't run away from it. If your idea is not to go back to Ghana, then perhaps you should look elsewhere, because these scholarships require you to come back to Ghana for at least a year, work, and then if you want to go back, well, that is fine. That said, I know individuals, my own mates here in the US, who were on Fulbright and World Bank scholarships, and after the program, they will find a way to negotiate and convince those given the scholarships that staying in the US for a year or two will actually help them solidify the knowledge that they've gained in order for them to go back. So it's by case basis, but eventually you would have to know that if you're going for certain scholarships, you'll be required to go back.
Dr. Charles, just one minute to
please go ahead.
1 minute.
Please go ahead.
Also on recommendation letters, I think that I would discourage students from using static recommendation letters. Some students are fond of using the same recommendation letters to different applications. I think perhaps some recommenders write sort of a generic recommendation letter, and then they constantly use this over and over again. I think it loses its essence, and really it is not specific for the kind of scholarship you are applying for. So students should desist from that. And one also important thing is that you need to have a relationship with your recommender, and you need to ultimately be accountable. Because if, for example, if Dr. Banda gives me a recommendation letter, I apply for scholarships for, say, 5 times, 8 times, 10 times. I don't even give him update. I'm always going for a recommendation. There's always that breaking point, right? Because you need to be able to tell him the progress of your applications and discuss, okay, in the last one you did this and this, how can we improve it? So I think that you also owe the recommenders this responsibility of being accountable so that they can, it's a journey. All right, it's a journey so that they can also help you to improve on your subsequent applications. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that said, right, I always consider anyone who gives me a recommendation letter as an indirect mentor, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, I know, like Fred, I know maybe like you know Prof. Adanu, University of Ghana.
Yeah.
So he was one of my recommenders when I was applying for my master's program. And I mean, when I got my admission letters, I sent all to him. I sent to him Harvard, Hopkins, Yale, to ask him about his opinion. And we all decided where I could go, right? And then even subsequently, whilst I was in school, I was still, occasionally I was sending him progress reports about, my transcript, how the program is going and all that. It shows that you are, you are showing some level of gratitude that they've at least helped you get into that phase of your academic journey. So, I mean, staying in contact with your recommenders is crucial. If you don't get admission, let them know. And also highlight your intention that you would want to apply for the following year, and you would love for them to also continue supporting you. What you have to understand is that what I've noticed is that most of our professors in Ghana, excuse me to say this, but most of them don't know how to write compelling recommendation letters. They are used to like the very generic form that Fred is talking about. Their secretaries have already drafted something. So once you come down, you need a recommendation letter. They put your name there and then give it to you for you to send it. That is not the kind of recommendation letters that schools are looking for. Schools are looking for unique recommendation letters that is, geared towards your own unique abilities.
Yeah.
Okay. So let them know offhand. Even if they want you to draft for them, you can. It's a good thing to say, I can draft it for you if you don't have the time, so that you go over it and then make the edits. It's better than them submitting a generic letter of recommendation.
Oh, very solid, Dr. Banda. Very solid. We are running out of time, so probably very quick responses on the final 4 questions. Then I give the closing remarks, then we end. How do we get your book, Dr. Banda? Is it available on Amazon? That's the first question. Combien has a question. I have a BSc in anesthesia. Are there opportunities for career progression? I've searched, but not found any answers. Dr. Eugene Abugri, for a PhD program, can I choose a research project hosted in Ghana while I do the rest of the course outside? Final question is a very interesting question. Can you assure me that if I follow your methods without deviating to the left or right, I will win an educational scholarship in the next year? Over to you.
Maybe a quick comment on Dr. Banda will talk about his book, and because he has written a book, so he has really documented strategies. But I think there was one question from Dr. Eugene about whether you can choose a research topic in Ghana. Your research, if you want a PhD program or something of that sort. I think really it boils down to what we've been talking about, what you want. So you need to find out the kind of scholarship it is really. A typical example is maybe the Swiss Government Excellence Scholarship, which I happen to have won one of them, and depending on which institution you are. So for example, in Switzerland, the Swiss Tropical and Public Health Institute, right? So in your application for this type of scholarship, you can actually make a proposal of a project. And in this project, you can really outline that you want to have this project done in Ghana. You can collect your samples and everything in Ghana. Maybe once in a year, you can travel back to Switzerland 3 months, do coursework, come back to Ghana, do the thesis and the research and the lab work. So it depends on what number one scholarship it is and what is required, basically, about that. Dr. Banda, if you can continue.
Yeah, maybe I might have missed some of the questions, but the one who asked about guarantee, there's no guarantee anywhere, right? No one can guarantee you that if you follow what I'm saying, you will win a scholarship, okay? The only person who can give you that guarantee is your research advisor. If it's sometimes close to the admission cycle, they change their mind, okay? The idea is not to see the process as being magical. It's the amount of effort you put in. The more you put in, the more likely you would get a scholarship. So make sure that you're putting in the best form of your application, and then you will also be in a position to get a scholarship. All right. If anyone tells you that, oh, pay me this amount of money, I can guarantee you scholarship in a well-recognized institution, I'm sorry to say that the person may be lying to you. Okay. You would have to put in the work and put in the effort. Yes. So Charles, the book is currently on Amazon. If you are staying outside Ghana, you can access it through Amazon. But if you are in Ghana, I have limited copies in Ghana. If you are interested, you can get a copy. So that is about the book. In terms of the PhD programs, highly differ. Okay, so you have to really know the kind of PhD you're dealing with. Others will understand for you to, some programs are hybrid, especially in Canada and elsewhere. They understand that, PhD, you can still be in your country and occasionally travel in and out. That is a hybrid format. But others would emphasize that you can't stay in your home country and do a PhD program, which is what I wanted to do, right? But it wasn't possible. They'll tell you their PhD is an on-site program, so you need to be on-site. However, if your thesis work or research involves that you travel back to Ghana briefly, either to collect data or to grant some interviews, well, that is allowed, okay? But you can't stay in Ghana and then, for a certain number of months or years while doing your PhD. So programs differ. So you need to understand and know the requirement for each program.
Great. Our time is up. Thank you for attending the second edition of our 2023 quarterly online seminars. I should say it's been incredible. My special thanks goes to Dr. Fred Wright and Dr. Banda Khalifa. It's been excellent, wonderful, impactful. And to our audience, you've been amazing. We will share the speaker's social media handles and that of Achievers Tribe on the Blackboard pages. We look forward to seeing you in 3 months. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye.